In this video, I will cover how to configure your 5D Mark III and the most useful and stable resolutions, how to install the correct firmware for the 5D so that the camera accepts Magic Lantern. I'll also show examples of footage for each resolutions, and finally, I will give some tips and suggestions for a smooth and trouble-free experience when using it in the field. Let's say that everything in this video is based on my personal experience with this camera. Everything that worked for me, providing a good shooting experience, and what doesn't. So let's jump into it. The first thing is to check the camera firmware, and if necessary, change it. To do this, put the camera in manual mode and set it to video mode. Turn on the camera. Press the menu button and using the front wheel, go to the Settings tab where you can see the installed firmware version. If you have version 113 or version 123, you can skip this step. When I bought my camera, I found version 1.36 installed. To downgrade to the correct version, the first thing to do is to download the already installed firmware, version 136. I downloaded it from the Canon webpage. I put the link in the description. On the page, you will find the version for Windows and the version for Mac. Once you have downloaded the firmware, open the folder with the firmware and copy the .fir file to an SD card that has been previously formatted in the exFAT format. Insert the SD card with the firmware into the camera and turn it on. Go to the menu in the Firmware tab. Click on the Set button, and before pressing OK, get ready to perform the following operation. With one hand, get ready to press OK by pressing the Set button, while with the other hand, get ready to quickly open the battery compartment door. Very carefully, when you click the Set button, you must almost simultaneously, within fractions of a second, open the battery door. The camera will turn off just before starting the firmware installation process. Be careful, because if you open the door too late, the installation process will begin, and it will all be useless, so you'll have to repeat this operation. Remove the SD card without closing the battery door. Download the 113 or 123 firmware on Facebook group page. You will find the link in the description. I downloaded the version 123 because it allows for a stable, clean HDMI output. Delete the previously copied 136 firmware from the SD card and copy the version 123. Insert this SD card back into the camera and close the battery compartment. The installation process will resume from where we left off. Confirm the installation of the 123 firmware. The process will take several minutes, so ensure you have a fully charged battery to avoid interruptions. Update complete. Select OK. Let's check to make sure version 123 is correctly installed. Turn off the camera and remove the SD card. On the same page, download the latest version of Magic Lantern, which is Dan's version from February 3rd, 2023. make sure to select the version suitable for your firmware. In my case, it's version 123. The link is in the description. Delete the 123 firmware from the SD card and transfer the files from the downloaded folder to the SD card. The camera can use an SD card and a CF card simultaneously or separately. These are the ones I use: a SanDisk Extreme Pro SD card and a SanDisk Extreme Pro CF card. The link is in the description. Before installing Magic Lantern, make sure to set the camera to manual mode and video mode. Enter the camera menu and select RAW under image quality. And under video resolution, select 1920x24 frame per second. In order to install Magic Lantern, insert the SD card with Magic Lantern and the CF card into the camera. After turning on the camera, go to the firmware section and click OK. In a few seconds, the camera will load Magic Lantern. Restart the camera when prompted. Magic Lantern will then be installed and will work directly from the SD card. Enter the Magic Lantern menu by clicking on the trash button. You can navigate between the different tabs using the camera's front wheel. Magic Lantern is configured by default with the Anamorphic preset. Let's start with the full HD resolutions, 1080p 16:9 or 3:2 open gate. For this configuration, turn off the presets and change the aspect ratio to 16:9. Only in this case, when turning off the presets, to update the resolution, turn the camera off and back on. Now our resolution is correctly set to 1920 by 1080p, 16:9. No crop on the sensor. You can leave the color depth at 14-bit. With this configuration, we can film continuously and always get a green indicator. In addition, our live view is in real time. Let's see some footage. This is the configuration I use the most, because the rolling shutter is almost non-existent, and so far I haven't seen any evident issues with moire or aliasing. Let's now configure our open gate. In the Movie tab, deselect the aspect ratio. And under RAW video, select the 3:2 aspect ratio. Our resolution will change to 1920 by 1280 full frame. We can also adjust the shutter speed to 1/48 by using the shutter fine-tuning. With this configuration, we achieve continuous recording at 14-bit. I love this configuration because we take advantage of the entire full frame sensor with the option to switch to a 16:9 aspect ratio without losing quality. In this mode there is no crop, framing is correct in real time and there's no rolling shutter. I forgot to mention that you can choose the preferred card to record MLV files under the RAW tab. I prefer to select the CF card as the preferred card. Let's move on to configure our settings for high frame rate resolutions. Under our presets, we'll find the option to shoot at 45, 48, 50, 60, and 40 frames per second. In this case, we have a real-time live view but stretched. Let's start with 45 frames per second. For all slow motion options, in the Canon menu, we need to change our resolution and frames per second to 1280-60 fps. After that, it's better to disable shutter fine-tuning, because I'm gonna activate more hacks, and it will generate problems with shutter values. Disable audio recording and set SD overclock to 160 Hz or higher. For me, 160 Hz works well with the SD card I use. After that, under the RAW tab, select card spanning on to be able to record simultaneously on both cards and have a higher writing bitrate. Then in the advanced settings, select MoreHack's IV Phase plus AEWB. Since we are shooting at 45 frames per second, I set the shutter as close to 190 as possible, so 1/100th. This way, we achieve continuous recording at 14-bit at 45 frames per second. If we switch to the 48 frame per second preset, the resolution will drop slightly from 1080 to 1050 with an aspect ratio of 1.83 to 1. Shooting with this configuration at 14-bit, it's less stable and can cause pink frames or interruptions in very bright light. I tried lowering the color depth to 12-bit, but the image exposure drops and the recording stops, generating an error. I have looked around for an answer to this problem without finding a solution. If anyone knows how to fix it, please let me know in the comments. Let's try 1920 at 50 frames per second. In this case, the aspect ratio will be 2 to 1, 1920 by 960. Let's move to 1920 at 60 frames per second, where we will have an aspect ratio of 2.39 to 1. (1920 by 804). I'm gonna change the shutter speed to a value as close as possible to 1/120th, which will be 1/130th. The indicator shows an orange color, sometimes green, depending on the light. Therefore, in this case, we must also pay attention when filming in very bright environments because we might experience interruptions in the recording. Let's see some examples in a few modes. I frequently use the 16 by 945 frame per second mode to shoot slow motion at 14-bit without any issue. And when I use these files in a 24 frame per second timeline, I reduce the speed to 53%, achieving smooth and fluid slow motion. Now let's move on to Anamorphic Mode. But first, in the Canon menu, we need to return to the 1920 resolution at 24 frames per second. We leave SD overclock at 160 MHz, restore audio recording to on, card spanning to on, and more hacks to IV Phase AEWB. The highest anamorphic resolution we can achieve is 1920 by 2340 without any crop. By stretching the horizontal resolution by 3 in post-production, we get 5760 by 2340, with an aspect ratio of 2.46:1. To do this, we leave the aspect ratio off. To load the changes, we click on the trash button. In this mode, we'll not have a real-time live view. During preparation for shooting, the image will be choppy and low quality, while during recording, it will still be low quality, in a grayscale, but sufficiently smooth. To facilitate focusing, we can press halfway down the shutter to get a 10x zoom. Focus. And then start recording after this operation. If we want to focus during filming, we can click halfway down the shutter without stopping the shooting. We get a 5x stretched magnification in real time and we can focus. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. In anamorphic mode, we can also shoot with other resolutions or aspect ratios. I recommend selecting the aspect ratio under the Movie tab and not in the RAW tab, for example, 16:9. In this case, the resolution will be 1360 by 2296, which stretched by 3 becomes 4080 by 2296. However, in this case, we'll have a crop factor of 1.41. Let's look at some examples of anamorphic in 5.7K. Let's move to higher resolutions in 1:1 mode. In 3K, the maximum resolution in this mode is 3072 by 1728 16:9. The crop factor is 1.87. The live view is not in real time and behaves similarly to anamorphic mode. Based on the tests conducted to shoot in 16:9 at 3K, the best way is using 10-bit. You can also shoot in 12-bit, but the stability will depend heavily on the surrounding light. So 10-bit is the more available way to get a stable recording, even if you'll get more noise on underexposed images. If we select an aspect ratio of 2.235:1 or 2.39:1, we can film continuously in 14-bit without any problem getting a better quality. Let's try 3.3K 16:9. The maximum resolution in this mode is 3264 by 1836 with a crop factor of 1.76:1. It gives me red in 14-bit or 12-bit, but it works decently in 10-bit. Changing the aspect ratio to 2.35 or higher, it works properly at 14-bit. So let's jump to 3.5K. Although the aspect ratio of 16:9 is selected, the maximum resolution in this mode is 2.07:1, 3584 by 1730 with a crop factor of 1.6. With this setting and 10-bit selected, you will get probably orange and red when recording. To achieve a more continuous recording, it's better to lower the aspect ratio and select 12-bit. Let's see some examples in a few modes. Let's now see how an external monitor works in various modes. First of all, we can configure the HDMI output in the Canon menu in mirroring mode to have the image on both the Canon screen and the external monitor at the same time. Let's start with 1080p. The preview is in real time with a fairly accurate frame, and we see the same during filming. In the high frame rate modes, the preview is in real time as well as during recording, although the image is slightly stretched. In anamorphic mode, as mentioned before, the image on the Canon screen is low quality during the preview, not in real time and choppy, while on the external monitor it's in real time, stretched, and with a certain crop factor that could be useful for focusing during filming. When recording on the Canon, we have an almost smooth grayscale image, while on the external monitor, the image is in real time, loses brightness, and is cropped. In 3K 16:9 mode, at least for me, the image on the screen is broken. To get the image, I have to put the camera in 5x zoom mode. What happens is that the framing shifts to the left. This way the image on the external monitor is in real time and cropped, while on the Canon screen it behaves like in anamorphic mode. In 3.3K during the preview, the image on the screen is in real time and cropped. But when filming, the image on the external monitor disappears. To have the image on the external monitor in 3.3K, you need to film with a lower aspect ratio. It will be in real time and cropped. The 3.5K mode behaves in the same way as the 3.3K mode. Meaning you need to film in 2.35:1 or 2.39:1 to have the image on the external monitor. Sometimes, when using the external monitor, the camera shows an error or the image freeze. Even trying to turn off the camera doesn't work. In this case, you need to remove the battery and reinsert it. Also, in these cases, it's better to turn off the external monitor and power up the two devices in sequence. First the camera, and then the external monitor. I'm preparing an upcoming video where we'll see the differences between the Canon EOS M and the Canon 5D Mark III, so stay tuned. I hope this video was helpful for some of you. Leave any suggestions on the use of this camera in the comments. Anything I might have missed or that can be improved. Thanks for watching and see you soon.